Coming to you from the city where it is illegal to throw a ball at someone's head for fun. Sorry, Hector. It's Ventriloquism Weekly. Mondays are the best thing since sliced bread, said no one ever except the listeners of this podcast. Matt Bailey back again on a Monday. Our youth month continues with 14-year-old Jared McLain from Roanoke, Illinois. Now, what I love about interviews, all kinds of interviews, I was actually talking with the guest that we'll have next week about this the other day. What I love about these interviews is when you interview somebody like Jay Johnson or Terry Fader, not to name drop, I'm just trying to use examples of people we've had on the show, Steve Axtell, what you get to do is you get to ask about a career. You get to ask about the things that everybody is a fan of. You get to ask about the characters and the things that people know about. What you get to do when you ask about when you talk to a youth event, and I love this just as much, even though sometimes I feel even more unprepared, is you get to ask about what they want to do, what they want, the things that are going to be memorable should they leave their mark, and hopefully everybody will, should they leave their mark, the things that they want to do with this art. So sometimes I feel weird when I'm interviewing younger people around my age, because I feel less prepared, because you look on YouTube and maybe you can find one or two things, or you go to Facebook and you see a picture and you go, oh, I see you have the Axtell rat. What is that? As we talk about with Jared today. But I love getting people just as they're starting out. I think it's just as valid and just as cool as interviewing somebody who's had a great career. But the unfortunate thing is sometimes those lead to very, very short interviews, even though it is my goal to get everybody in here for as long as possible. And Jared is actually the shortest interview that we've had. He runs at about 10 minutes. So, of course, he will be back on the program in the future. Because the interview is so short, I don't want to give anything away. Here now, our interview with Jared McLain. Jared McLain, welcome to Ventriloquism Weekly. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing good, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on the show. I'm excited. I just want to jump right in. How'd you get started in ventriloquism? You're 14 years old. How'd you get started?
I started actually when I was 8. I just saw Jeff Dunham on TV and got interested in it.
It's really cool. So, what made you want to do it? What appealed to you about it?
I just liked all the characters and how you could show different sides of your personality through a puppet.
It's wonderful. So now, is this something you think you're going to want to go into professionally?
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, don't be afraid to tell stories. Get into it. So, how'd your parents take it? I know since you started as a kid, it's rare we get to talk as a kid to a kid. What'd they say? Little 8-year-old Jared wanted to do ventriloquism.
Well, at first they thought it was just a phase, and they thought I was proud of it, and so I would always ask for some of the nicer, more expensive characters, like from Steve Axtell or all these other figure makers, and they wouldn't agree to purchase one because they thought they didn't want to spend all the money on one and then grow out of it. But now that I'm into it and I've stuck with it over all the years, they really like it, and they like it when I get out there and do shows and everything.
That's wonderful. And I first heard of you because I saw you around at Vent Haven. Was this your first Vent Haven this last year?
No, I attended my first convention in 2012.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd actually had a bit of an absence, so it makes sense I wouldn't have run into you. But how'd you hear about it? Like I said, I know these are weird, basic questions, but I love to hear how somebody just a couple years into it sort of finds out about the things that we know about and we kind of live in. So how'd you hear about the convention?
I actually saw all of Dirk Golden's videos on YouTube of him going around and showing the dealer's rooms and everything, and when I first saw those, it never really, I never thought of asking my parents or if I could go. And then one year I just built up and finally asked if I could go, and my parents looked into it, and we agreed to it, and we went. It was a lot of fun.
That's wonderful. Now, you mentioned the Steve Axtell characters before. You have one of his rats now. How'd you come into the rat and design his character? Let's talk a little bit about that character.
When I first started doing ventriloquism and I saw his website and discovered it, I was watching Dirk's videos and I saw him with his rat, and then I saw it on Steve's website, and I always liked that character. And when I was at convention, I saw someone playing with it and using it at his table. And once they sat it down, I kind of went over and I picked it up. And once I picked it up, a voice came to me and everything, and then I purchased it.
It's really, really cool. And you use him in shows. What's his character?
His character is more of like a slow, dumb-witted type character.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so what's his name?
His name is Nuts, N-U-T-Z.
That's his
because of his crazy eyes and his bite out of his ear.
That's wonderful. Now, I saw, you'll have to forgive me, sometimes it's good to do research and watch videos and watch performances, and sometimes I love coming at it from the opposite angle, talking to the performer before I ever see any of their videos. And I'm going to be completely honest. I love to be honest. I know that you have a video, or at least you have pictures with him. I tried to find that stuff before our interview today, but unfortunately I could not. So I want you to go ahead, fill in our listeners on what you do in your shows, and what a Jared McLain ventriloquist show is, because I'm just as curious as any of our listeners who may not know what you do.
My shows are mostly for the kid audiences, since I am only 14. Mm-hmm. And Nuts will like to tell jokes, and he thinks he's all funny and everything. And some of my characters ranged from a lot of different personalities. I just recently did in December, a show for our church, and I did a Christmas show. And one of my characters, Milo, told I was reading the night before Christmas, and he interrupted with all of his thoughts and everything. So he's kind of the jokester and likes to play the pranks on everybody. And then I used my character, Xander, and he told a story about what he thought Christmas meant versus what it really meant and everything. So it's kind of informative, but they also go home knowing some of the jokes, but they also get a moral out of the show.
That's wonderful. When did you start performing? Did you start performing in the church? When did you actually start performing? You know, a couple weeks ago we talked to Langston Hatch, who didn't start performing for 5 years after he started Vent, and I'm sure he's the exception to the rule. How long after you started doing Vent did you start performing, and where were those first shows?
My first shows were like nursing homes, and I didn't start performing. I think my first show was probably when I was 12 or 13.
Oh, cool.
And I'd always done YouTube videos, like once I got after the convention and everything. And that's where a lot of my stuff was. But I built up all the shows and the skits, and I went to a nursing home and I did a show. And last summer I did 5 or 6 shows throughout nursing homes, and I did one at a home for the disabled. And then I'm writing a skit now for the church, and then nursing homes for the summer.
That's some of the most rewarding work, I think, is to be able to go into those retirement communities and those nursing homes and get to bring smiles to those people's faces.
Yes, they love it when someone comes in and takes their time to come and entertain them.
Yeah, that's where I got my start too, probably right around your age, actually, right around the age you started doing it. So you're on the right path. So where do you want to take it? What do you want to do with it?
I would like to take it and do like carnivals and perform at the convention and fairs and churches. I really like those audiences.
That's great. Yeah, no, fairs are cool, and churches, it seems to be, they get a lot of those ventriloquists come in and do churches as well. And churches love young kids. Churches love to be able to look at the kid and shine on him. And you seem very mature. It's weird. Ventriloquists, it doesn't matter what age, they always seem, if you're a teenager, you always seem more mature for your age. And last week, talking to Langston, and now talking to you, we're focusing on youth for these first couple of weeks here. Why do you think that is? I can tell you're very articulate and very well spoken. Why do you think that is for people in ventriloquism?
I feel like the ventriloquists get to show their more childish and mature side through their characters.
Yes.
And then they need to be more mature when they're trying to book their shows, so they don't come across immature, because not many people are going to want to hire you if you don't take what you're doing serious.
Exactly. That's a very mature viewpoint right there. You're kind of forced to be the business person very early on. So, yeah, so it's really cool. Now, I want to shift gears. Like I said, we are focusing on youth for these first couple of weeks here. Oh, heavens. Yes, there's the question. The new question I want to ask everybody. Lost it for just a second. It happens. What I wanted to ask you, Jared, is what drew you to it? You talked about Jeff Dunham and enjoying it, but now that you say you want to stick with it and all of that, what has drawn you to this art form? What about it?
It's not a very popular art form that a lot of people do. I mean, you have your singers and stuff like that, but you don't hear every day of the ventriloquists and everything. So I think having that small, close amount of people that do it really keep you wanting to perform. And I like performing and being up on stage and bringing smiles to people's faces.
That's wonderful. It's just awesome. Yeah, it certainly is a tiny group of people who do it, and I think we are one of the only art forms that really feels like a family. Doesn't it feel like a family when you go to Van Haven?
Yeah, everybody knows everybody.
Everybody knows everybody, and it's just one of those things. So who are some of your mentors? Who do you look up to as a 14-year-old? Who are you looking at that you really enjoy, other than Jeff, who we already talked about?
Jeff, like I mentioned, and once Terry Fader won America's Got Talent, that really opened my eyes that could be a possibility one day.
Yeah, really, he broke through. He was the first ventriloquist to get I don't know where Ron Lucas falls in there, but he was certainly the biggest signed ventriloquist ever to something. So it really is a testament to how far this art form can take you.
Yeah.
Yeah, So, Jared, the last question I have for you, this was really short and sweet, but I like that. I like it when people are just starting out their journey, come on and share it with us, and we get to watch you grow, and I'm sure we'll run into each other at the Van Haven, get to watch you grow, have you back, and as you do more and more. But the question I want to ask is, what do you want to see from ventriloquists coming up? What's missing? What do you think ventriloquists should do to advance the art form?
I'm not really sure. A lot of people have their own different styles, and like I said, everyone has their own unique style, and one person can do one thing, and then another person can try to do that thing, and it might just not work because that is not their style.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Find your own voice and just let it shine. Am I right?
Yep.
Absolutely. And Jared, I can't wait to see what you do with it. I think you're going to have a wonderful, bright future. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you again to Jared. I am so amazed at how smart and articulate all of our young guests are. Next week, we wrap the under 18 set with Lachlan Werner from the UK. That's it for us this week. A reminder, you can find all you need to know about Ventriloquism Weekly by visiting our website, ventriloquismweekly.com. I can never say visiting right. Has anybody noticed that when you say ventriloquism, you try to say visiting, and I don't know what that is. Reach out by emailing ventriloquismweekly@gmail.com and find our group on Facebook by searching Ventriloquism Weekly -podcast for ventriloquists. Tweet us at Talk4Two and find our like page. It's brand new, and we just had 100 members in the first week. I cannot thank you enough. Facebook.com/TALKFORTWO. That's the same as our hashtag and our Twitter handles. Signing off from New York, I'm Matt Bailey, reminding all you vents out there to keep talking for two.